The city of Orelise Prime never slept. Silver towers touched the clouds, and neon lights painted the night sky. In this world, dragons lived among humans, no longer wild beasts, but beings of wisdom and power. They could take human form, walk the streets, even work in human companies. But peace was not perfect. Some humans still feared them. Some dragons still saw humans as weak. And in the middle of this cold balance lived Lariah, the deaf dragon lady. Lariah worked as an engineer in the lower sector, a quiet place filled with machines, flowers, and old robots she liked to fix. Her long silver hair glowed faintly in the dark, and faint scales shimmered along her neck when the light hit her skin. But her eyes were the most beautiful thing about her. Bright gold, full of kindness and quiet fire. She could not hear the noise of the world, but she felt everything through vibrations. The hum of engines, the rhythm of footsteps, the beat of a heart when someone stood close. Most people thought her silence made her weak. They were wrong. One morning, Lariah arrived at the garden sector where she usually worked with plants and machines. A group of humans from the upper levels was already there, laughing, talking loudly. Among them was Talon, a tall dragon in human form. He was from a rich dragon clan, arrogant and charming. He smiled when he saw her. "Ah, Lariah," he said, pretending kindness. "You're late. Again." She didn't hear the words, of course. She watched his lips move, trying to read them. Then she bowed her head slightly and signed softly. "Good morning," Talon chuckled and said to the others. "She tries, but she can't even say hello properly." The group laughed. Lariah saw their faces, their moving mouths, their mocking eyes. She smiled politely, pretending not to understand. But deep inside, she felt that small sting again, the pain she always hid. Later that day, her friend Evan arrived. He was human, young, and worked as a gardener in the same place. Evan wasn't rich or powerful. His hands were rough from digging in the soil, but he had something special, kind eyes, and the ability to communicate with her using sign language. He learned it just for her. When he saw the way Talon and his group laughed, his jaw tightened. He walked over to Lariah, wiped the dirt from his hands, and signed gently, "Ignore them. You're stronger than all of them." Lariah smiled, her golden eyes soft. She signed back, "I'm used to it." But Evan didn't smile. He looked at the group and muttered under his breath, "They're cowards, all of them." That evening, as the sun fell behind the towers, Lariah received a message. It was from Talon. He had asked her to meet him at Sky Garden, a beautiful place high above the city, where only the rich dragons and nobles could go. The message read, "Dinner tomorrow. Don't be late. I'll be waiting." Lariah's heart fluttered for a moment. Maybe he wanted to make peace. Maybe he wanted to know her better. She looked at the stars that night and wondered what it would feel like to be truly accepted. The next evening came. She wore a soft blue dress and tied her silver hair. Her eyes glowed in the light of the neon skyline as she stepped into the Sky Garden, filled with glowing trees and floating lanterns. Talon was there, sitting at a table, smiling. But something felt wrong. When she sat down, he didn't look at her with warmth. His friends were hiding nearby, pretending to be other guests. Their faces carried cruel smiles. Talon leaned closer and spoke. His lips moved fast, too fast for her to read clearly. But she caught a few words. "You don't belong." He laughed, and his friends laughed with him. One of them whispered loudly, "Look, she doesn't even know we're laughing at her." Lariah froze. Her golden eyes dimmed. She tried to keep her face calm, but her hands trembled. The people around them giggled, recording everything with their hollow devices. Her heart broke quietly in her chest. Then, a hand touched her shoulder. Warm, steady, human. She turned and saw Evan. He stood behind her, his clothes simple, his face calm but serious. He looked straight at Talon and his group, then bent down beside Lariah. He didn't speak. He signed. His hands moved with strength, every gesture clear and full of emotion. "You're perfect." "He's a jerk." Lariah stared at him, her breath catching. Talon blinked, confused, not understanding the signs. Evan looked at him and said aloud, She's 10 times the being you'll ever be, Dragon Boy. The laughter stopped. Talon's smile vanished. People around them whispered. The moment turned cold and sharp, like a blade in the air. Lariah stood slowly. Her eyes glowed faintly, her dragon blood rising beneath her calm surface. The golden hue in her irises began to burn. She looked at Talon, and though she didn't speak, the air around her shimmered with quiet power. Everyone could feel it. Even those who didn't believe in dragon magic felt their hearts race. She turned away, lifted her chin, and walked beside Evan out of the garden. Her head high, her steps graceful, her silence louder than any roar. As they left, the neon lights reflected in her golden eyes. She signed softly, "Thank you." Evan smiled, replying with his hands, "Always." But what neither of them knew was that someone else had seen everything from the shadows. Someone who would not forget this insult to dragonkind. Because in Orelise Prime, pride was everything. And a dragon humiliated in public never forgave. The next morning, the sunlight cut through the mist over Orelise Prime. The golden towers shone like blades, and the city began to wake. But under that beauty, something dark was moving. Word of what happened at the Sky Garden spread fast. Too fast. Videos and hollow pictures of Talon being humiliated by a deaf dragon woman and a human gardener were now everywhere. Dragons talked, humans laughed, and the Dracarin clan, one of the most powerful dragon families in Orelise, burned with shame. Talon sat inside his father's mansion, a large hall of black marble, guarded by silver statues of dragons. He was shaking with anger. "Father, they humiliated me in front of the whole city. A human," he growled, hitting the table. Across from him sat Lord Varoth, his father, the head of the clan. His golden eyes glowed with silent fury, his wings half unfolded behind him. "Silence," he said in a low, deep voice. "You shamed yourself first by acting like a fool. Now the clan must clean your mess." Talon lowered his eyes, trembling. Varoth stood and walked toward the large glass wall overlooking the city. "The people are laughing at us, Talon. A dragon mocked by a human. A disgrace to our kind." He turned back, his face sharp as a blade. "That woman, Lariah, she has brought attention we do not need. And that human, he will pay for this." Meanwhile, in the lower sectors, Lariah was in her workshop, fixing a small drone with Evan beside her. The place smelled of oil and flowers. The walls were covered with metal vines and glowing leaves. A strange mix of technology and nature that only she could create. Evan watched her hands move with perfect skill. She didn't need sound to work. She understood the rhythm of every machine through vibration. He smiled softly. "You're amazing, you know that?" She looked up, puzzled, reading his lips. He repeated slowly, pointing to her, "Amazing." Lariah blushed, her golden eyes softening. She signed back, "I just listened differently." They both laughed silently, but their peace didn't last long. A deep rumble shook the ground outside. The workshop lights flickered. Then came the shadow. A large dragon, black scales, glowing red eyes, landed outside, cracking the pavement beneath his claws. He wasn't in human form. His wings spread wide, covering the entire street. Evan stepped back, eyes wide. Lariah turned slowly, her heart pounding. The dragon lowered his head. When he spoke, his voice shook the air. "Lariah of Orelise, daughter of the silent flame, you have insulted the Dracarin clan." People screamed and ran. Dust and smoke filled the street. Lariah stood still. Her hands trembled, but her eyes stayed firm. She couldn't hear the roar, but she felt it, through the ground, through her bones. Evan grabbed her arm. "We have to go," he shouted. She looked at him, then back at the dragon. Her eyes narrowed. She signed one word, "Run." Evan didn't move. "I'm not leaving you." The dragon's eyes glowed brighter. "Your human pet will die first," he thundered, fire building in his throat. Then, something strange happened. Lariah stepped forward. Her hair lifted slightly in the air, as if the wind obeyed her. The golden glow in her eyes burned brighter, and faint lines of light spread across her skin like molten fire. The air around her began to vibrate. Not sound, but frequency. A deep pulse that made the ground hum. Machines nearby started to react. Lights flickering, drones activating. Evan stared in shock. "Lariah, what are you doing?" She raised her hand, and the air shimmered. The dragon's fire froze mid-breath, glowing like molten glass. Lariah's voice came, not through sound, but through the mind. A telepathic whisper carried through the air. "I don't want to fight. Leave him alone." The great dragon blinked, stunned. He had never heard such a voice, calm, quiet, yet filled with ancient power. But the silence broke when more dragons arrived, 3 more, circling above. Their shadows covered the entire street. Evan stepped forward, pulling Lariah's hand. "We can't stay here." She nodded, grabbing a small metal sphere from her belt. She tapped it twice. It opened into a small drone. With a blink of light, a hollow gate appeared beside them. The black dragon roared and lunged forward, but they jumped through the portal, vanishing just before his claws struck the ground. They landed hard inside an old underground tunnel, far from the city lights. Evan coughed and looked around. "Where are we?" Lariah pointed to the glowing walls around them, covered in old dragon runes and ancient tech wiring. She signed, "Old Refuge. My mother built it before she disappeared." Evan frowned. "Your mother?" Lariah hesitated. Her eyes dimmed for a moment, remembering. She signed slowly. "She was from the same clan as Talon. She left when she found out what they did to humans." Evan nodded, understanding. "So they've hated you since then." She nodded once, her jaw tightening. A sound came from behind them, a quiet mechanical voice. "Lariah? Is that you?" A small old robot gardener, broken and rusty, rolled out of the shadows. Its glowing eyes flickered weakly. She smiled softly and touched its metal head. "Hello, Mira," she signed. The robot beeped happily. "It has been 1,239 days since you last visited. You have a guest." Evan smiled nervously. "Yeah, a human guest. Nice to meet you, robot." The robot blinked. "Warning, energy surge detected above ground. Dracaran forces are scanning this sector." Evan's expression turned serious. "They're still hunting us." Lariah's eyes glowed faintly as she turned toward the tunnel's exit. "Then we move. I can't hide forever." As they prepared to leave, the air shimmered again, this time not from her power, but from a holographic projection appearing in midair. It was Lord Varoth, Talon's father. His image was tall, sharp, and his voice cut like ice. "Lariah of the Silent Flame," he said, "you have broken the order between our kinds. You have humiliated our bloodline before humans. Come forward now, or your human companion will die for your pride." Evan clenched his fists. "He's bluffing." Lariah's golden eyes darkened. She could feel the energy pulsing through the city. The clan scanners searching for them, dragons circling above like hunters. She looked at Evan and signed. "If I stay, they'll destroy everything I love. I can't let you be hurt because of me." Evan shook his head. "You think I'd just let them take you? Not a chance." He stepped closer, his voice steady. "If dragons think humans are weak, then they haven't met me yet." For a long moment, Lariah looked at him, this ordinary human with calloused hands and a brave heart. And for the first time in years, she felt something she hadn't felt before. Hope. Above the city, dragons flew in circles, their roars shaking the sky. The hunt had begun. But deep underground, 2 figures, one dragon, one human, were already preparing for what came next. Plan. A secret that could change everything between their races. Because the deaf dragon lady was not powerless. She was the silent flame, and her silence was about to make the whole world listen. The tunnels of old Oralise stretched for miles beneath the glowing city. Ancient symbols pulsed faintly on the walls, reacting to Lariah's presence. The air was cool and heavy with the scent of old metal and dust. Lariah and Evan sat near a small generator light, the flickering blue glow dancing on their faces. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was peaceful. Evan watched her as she worked on a strange metal device, her fingers moving fast and precise. "What is that?" he asked softly. Lariah looked up, then signed slowly. "A signal dampener. It hides us from dragon scanners." Evan nodded. "You really thought of everything." She smiled faintly. "I had to. Dragons never forgive." Her eyes dimmed when she said that. He could see the pain behind her calm face. The years of being treated as different, of hiding her true power just to survive among both species. After a long pause, Evan leaned closer. "Lariah, why do they hate you so much? Just because you're deaf?" She looked at him for a moment, then sighed silently. Her fingers began to move, signing slowly, carefully so he could understand. "Not just because I'm deaf, because I'm half-blood. My father was a dragon. My mother was human. When she died, my clan blamed me. They said I was born broken. They said silence is a curse." Evan's expression hardened. "That's not a curse. That's strength. You hear the world in your own way." Her eyes softened. She stared at him as if no one had ever said that before. Then she smiled. A real smile this time, small but full of light. Evan smiled back. "And for the record, I like your kind of silence. It's peaceful." She laughed softly, covering her mouth, the sound escaping before she could stop it. A low, melodic hum that only came when she forgot to hide. Evan froze. "You can make sound?" Lariah blushed, shaking her head. "Not words, just feeling." He nodded slowly, whispering, "Still beautiful." For a moment, the danger outside didn't matter. The world seemed small, just them, a flickering light, and the heartbeat of the earth. But peace doesn't last long in Orelise. The small robot Mira rolled toward them, its sensors glowing red. "Warning," it said in a trembling mechanical voice. "Multiple energy signatures approaching. Airborne." Evan stood quickly. "They found us." Lariah's eyes widened. She activated the dampener, but it flickered weakly, its power cells drained. She signed fast. "It's not enough." The ceiling above them began to shake. Dust rained down as distant roars echoed through the tunnels. Evan grabbed her hand. "We need to move." They ran down a narrow tunnel. The ground shook behind them as plasma fire ripped through the old metal structures. Blue flames lit up the walls. Dragons were here. Outside, in the night sky, 3 dragons flew in formation. Their scales gleamed like silver knives, their voices rumbling through the air. "Target located," one said through his communicator. "Orders from Lord Varoth, bring her alive. Kill the human if he resists." The largest of them, a crimson-scaled female named Sereth, snarled. "She's an abomination. I'll end her myself." They dove. Inside the tunnels, Evan and Lariah burst into a huge underground chamber. The room was circular, with ancient pillars and an old energy core in the center. Faded symbols glowed along the floor, runes of old dragon magic mixed with human circuitry. Lariah stopped, eyes widening. "This is my mother's lab," she signed. Evan looked around, amazed. "Your mother built all this?" Lariah nodded. "She was trying to unite our worlds, to make dragons and humans live together." Evan smiled sadly. "She sounds like you." Before she could reply, the ceiling exploded. A massive dragon crashed through, landing in the chamber with a roar that shook the ground. It was Sereth. Her eyes glowed with hatred. "So this is the half-blood," she hissed. "You hide in your mother's grave like a coward." Evan stepped in front of Lariah. "Back off." Sereth laughed, a sound like fire cracking stone. You think a human can protect her?" Evan raised his chin. "I don't think. I know." He picked up a metal rod from the floor, a broken part of the old machinery. His hands were shaking, but his eyes were steady. Lariah's heart pounded. She could feel the vibrations of Sereth's wings, the power in her voice. She signed fast. "You can't fight her." Evan looked back and said softly, "Maybe not, but I won't let her hurt you." Sereth roared and struck. The wind from her wings threw Evan across the room. He hit the ground hard, blood running down his forehead. Lariah screamed, no sound coming out, but her power did. The ground lit up with golden lines, the runes burning like fire. The air vibrated violently, humming with energy. Machines reactivated, glowing blue. Sereth growled, stepping back. What are you doing? Lariah's eyes turned into twin suns. The light around her grew until her human form began to fade, replaced by her true self. A dragon of silver and gold, smaller than Sereth but burning with silent fury. The entire chamber shook as she lifted her wings. The vibration in the air grew stronger, waves of invisible force pushing Sereth back. Evan stared in awe. Lariah! Lariah didn't roar. She didn't speak. Her silence became her weapon. The energy pulsed from her in waves. Vibration so strong it shattered rock, broke Sereth's balance, and made the dragon fall to her knees. Sereth screamed, trying to fight back, but her own flames died against the golden light. When the energy finally faded, Sereth lay unconscious on the ground. The chamber was cracked and smoking. Lariah collapsed, her dragon form melting back into her human one. She breathed hard, her hands trembling. Evan crawled to her, holding her shoulders. Hey, stay with me. She looked at him weakly, signing with shaking hands. Are you hurt? He smiled, wiping the blood from his forehead. Just a scratch. You should see the other dragon. She tried to laugh, but her strength was gone. He lifted her gently, holding her close. We need to get out of here before more come. She nodded faintly. There's a safe route ahead. Old service tunnel. They moved slowly, Mira rolling beside them, scanning for danger. Above them, dragons searched the skies, furious and confused. Far away, in the high tower of the Dracaran clan, Lord Varoth watched the live feed of the battle. The image of Lariah transforming and defeating Sereth replayed again and again. He clenched his clawed hand, crushing the metal railing beside him. So, the silent flame awakens, he murmured. She carries her mother's power. Behind him, Talon stood, pale and speechless. Father, what will you do? Varitha's golden eyes burned like molten fire. What I must. If she lives, she will destroy the old order. Send the hunters, every one of them. Bring me the girl and the human. He looked out over the glowing city. Before the silence spreads, deep underground, Evan and Lariah reached a hidden door. She pressed her hand to the scanner. The door slid open, revealing a long tunnel lit by soft white light. Evan looked at her. Where does this lead? She signed slowly. To the surface, and maybe to hope. He smiled tiredly. Then let's find it together. She nodded, her golden eyes meeting his. For a moment, they both forgot the danger. The world outside, the dragons hunting them, the clan's rage. In that quiet place, surrounded by light and dust, a promise formed between them. Not spoken, not written, just felt. A promise that one human and one dragon would stand together, against all who tried to keep them apart. The tunnel led them upward for miles. Old machines hummed softly as if they still remembered Lariah's mother. Faint lights spilled through cracks in the ceiling, and the air smelled of metal and rain. Lariah moved carefully, her steps light even though her body ached from the battle. Evan followed close behind, carrying the small robot Mira on his shoulder. The little bot blinked with a tired light. Energy low, Mira murmured. Surface access detected ahead. Evan whispered, Good, we could use some fresh air. Lariah turned to him and signed, They will keep searching. The clan won't stop. He nodded. I know, but we can't hide forever either. For a moment, they both stared at the faint glow ahead, the exit. Freedom waited there, but also danger. The city watches. When they stepped outside, the night was alive with sirens and bright holoscreens. News drones floated in the air, showing clips of the battle underground. People stopped in the streets, staring. They had seen the video, a deaf dragon woman fighting to protect a human. Some humans cheered. Some dragons growled in anger. And high above, in the tower of the Dracaran clan, Lord Varoth watched everything. He turned to his guards. Send the hunters, he said. No more warnings. Bring me the silent flame and her human alive, if possible. Escape through the neon streets. Lariah pulled up her hood, hiding her silver hair. They moved through the lower market streets, where glowing signs reflected off wet pavement. Everywhere, screens flashed her face. Deaf Dragon Lady attacks clan member. Evan clenched his fists. They're turning the story against you. She signed quickly. That's how the clans keep control. They twist the truth. He looked at her, anger in his eyes. Then we tell the real story. Before she could reply, Mira beeped. Alert. Multiple life forms approaching. Dracaran scanners active. Evan cursed under his breath. They're close. They ducked into an alley. The air smelled of smoke and hot metal. Lariah touched the wall. Faint vibrations ran through it, wings beating somewhere above. She closed her eyes, feeling the rhythm of the city like a heartbeat. Her fingers traced invisible symbols in the air, ancient runes glowing softly. The neon lights flickered and bent around them. A shimmer spread, and suddenly they were hidden behind an illusion. A small cloak field that distorted light. Evan stared, amazed. You made us invisible? She smiled faintly. For a short time, the hunters, a group of armored dragons in human form, landed in the alley. Their armor hissed with energy, and their eyes glowed faintly red. Each carried a pulse weapon. One of them sniffed the air. She's close, he growled. The air smells like burning light. The leader, a tall dragon named Kale, scanned the street. She won't escape this time. Lord Varoth wants her alive. Kill the human if he resists. They spread out. Under the cloak field, Lariah's hands trembled slightly. Evan could feel her fear but also her strength. He whispered, We have to move quietly. She nodded. Step by step, they slipped past the hunters. But as they turned the corner, the cloak flickered. Myra's light dimmed. Warning, the robot said weakly. Energy critical. One of the hunters turned sharply. There! A blast of plasma hit the wall beside them, exploding in blue sparks. Run! Evan shouted. The chase. They ran through the alleys, the hunters close behind. Energy bolts scorched the walls. Evan dodged debris, pulling Lariah with him. She moved fast despite her injuries, her golden eyes focused and fierce. A hoverbike roared past. Evan grabbed its rider, threw him off, and jumped on. He reached a hand to Lariah. Come on! She hesitated for half a second, then leapt behind him. Her arms wrapped around his waist as the bike shot forward into the traffic lanes. The city lights blurred into streaks of color. Behind them, two hunters jumped onto their own bikes and followed. Blasts of energy flew past. One hit the side of a building, raining fire. Evan gritted his teeth. I'm not dying tonight. Lariah reached over his shoulder and tapped the control panel. Her fingers danced across the screen, changing the bike settings. The engine's pitch shifted, a deep hum that resonated through the metal. The vehicle suddenly sped up, weaving between air cars and neon bridges. Nice work, Evan shouted. She smiled faintly, the wind pulling her hair. Just listening to the machine, she signed against his shoulder. The hidden safe zone. They finally reached the old western docks, a forgotten area filled with rusting ships and cargo containers. The night was quiet here. They hid the bike under metal debris and slipped inside an abandoned shipyard. Evan sat down, breathing hard. Please tell me that's the last of them. Mira beeped softly. Negative. Heat signatures inbound. 4 units. Lariah's eyes flashed. She pressed her hand against the floor and felt vibrations. Footsteps coming closer. Evan stood. Then we fight. She shook her head. No. We distract them. She looked around and found an old power cable. Her hands moved quickly, connecting it to Myra's core. The robot's lights flickered brighter. Mira, she signed. You'll guide them away. When they follow you, meet us at the northern bridge. The little bot beeped sadly. Affirmative. Stay safe, Lariah. Then it rolled away into the dark, its light blinking like a lure. Seconds later, Blasts echoed in the distance. The hunters chasing the decoy. Evan looked at her. That was brave. She smiled softly, though her eyes looked tired. We owe Mira everything. A promise in the dark. They found shelter inside a small control room overlooking the sea. The city lights shimmered on the water like broken stars. Lariah leaned against the window, her reflection glowing faintly gold. Evan handed her a small water bottle. You okay? She nodded, sipping slowly. Then she looked at him and signed. Why do you help me? I'm Dragon. You're human. They will hurt you too. He sat beside her. Because you saved me first. Because you're worth it. And because someone has to show them that humans and dragons can stand together. She blinked, her eyes shining softly. You really believe that? He smiled. I do. And I'm not leaving you. That's a promise. She stared at him for a long time, then placed her hand over his heart. The gesture said everything words couldn't. Outside, thunder rumbled. Dark clouds gathered over the ocean. Suddenly, a low hum filled the air. A bright beam of light shot down from the sky, scanning the shipyard. Lariah froze. It's them, Evan whispered. A huge Dracaran warship hovered above, its engines glowing red. A voice echoed through the storm. Lariah of the silent flame. You are surrounded. Surrender and the human will live. Evan stepped forward. Don't listen to them. She shook her head. If I fight, they'll destroy everything. He grabbed her shoulders. Then we fight smart. The ship's cannons charged, lightning flashing behind it. Lariah took a deep breath, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. The air around her shimmered with vibration. I won't let them take you, Evan said firmly. She looked at him, fear and determination mixing in her golden eyes, and signed one word. Together. The first blast struck. The dock exploded in fire and smoke. The sea boiled. The night turned red. And in the middle of the chaos, one dragon woman and one human gardener stood side by side, ready to face the fury of an ancient clan. The hunt had found them, but the war was only beginning. The storm broke across Orelise Prime like the wrath of heaven. Fire and lightning filled the night as the great warship descended, its red glow turning the ocean into a mirror of blood. Lariah stood on the cracked dock, her silver hair whipping in the wind, her eyes glowing brighter than the ship's engines. Evan stood beside her, gripping a metal rod like it was a sword. They were surrounded, but neither moved. Dragons in human armor landed all around them, their faces hard and cold. The lead soldier raised his weapon. Lariah of the silent flame. Surrender now. She didn't answer. Her hands moved slowly, forming a sign Evan understood. Wait. The soldiers spread out, closing in. The air pulsed with tension. Lariah looked up at the sky. She could feel the vibration of the ship's engines, the hum in her bones. Then she closed her eyes and listened, not with her ears, but with her heart. Every sound was a wave. Every movement had rhythm. And within that rhythm she found the weak point. When the first soldier fired, the blast never reached her. A wall of golden energy burst outward, bending the plasma away like water deflecting rain. The soldiers stumbled back. Lariah opened her eyes, and light flowed from her hands, her silence roaring louder than any battle cry. Evan stepped forward, standing close beside her. We fight together, he said. She nodded once. More blasts rained down. The dock shattered. Waves crashed against the steel ruins. Lariah raised her arms, and the vibration in the air grew stronger. The sea itself began to move, not from the wind, but from her pulse. The water twisted, forming a spiral that rose like a living creature. Energy surged from her hands, turning the spiral into a glowing shield. Evan's voice cut through the chaos. They're flanking us. She turned her head slightly, saw two soldiers moving along the dockside. Her hands moved faster, the vibrations traveling through the ground. The steel beneath the soldiers cracked and folded. They fell into the ocean with screams swallowed by thunder. The warship fired again. A giant energy beam fell from the sky, striking the dock. Lariah pushed Evan down, shielding him with her wings as the explosion tore the world apart. The sound was gone, only vibration remained. She felt pain in every bone, but she stayed standing. Evan got up, coughing, half covered in ash. "You okay?" She nodded weakly, blood running from her nose. He grabbed her hand, his grip tight. "We can't win like this. We have to move." They ran through the smoke, heading for the old cargo towers near the shore. Behind them, the soldiers regrouped. Drones flew overhead, scanning every corner. The warship lowered closer, its engines rumbling like thunder gods. Inside the tower, the walls trembled with every blast. Evan leaned against a console, breathing hard. "We can't keep running forever." Lariah looked at the old tech around them. Broken generators, rusted cables, flickering lights. She touched one of the consoles, and golden light spread from her fingers into the circuits. The machines came alive, lights flickering back to life after decades. Evan stared. "You can control human tech too?" She shook her head. "Not control. Listen. Machines have rhythm too." The lights grew brighter. The tower shook again. Outside, the warship hovered directly above. Lariah looked at Evan, her face calm despite the chaos. She signed. "There's something I need to show you." She pressed her hand to the console again, and a holographic image appeared. It showed a map of Orelise. Hidden tunnels, energy lines, and symbols that pulsed like veins. "My mother made this," Evan whispered. Lariah nodded. "She built the silent core. It can stop the dragon's power, but it can also destroy the city if used wrong." Evan looked at her. "And you know how to use it?" She hesitated, then nodded slowly. "But it could kill me." He stared at her, shaking his head. "No, there has to be another way." She touched his cheek gently, her golden eyes glowing faintly. "If I don't stop them, they'll burn everything. I have to try." Before he could answer, the ceiling exploded. Soldiers stormed in. Evan grabbed a fallen weapon and fired wildly, covering her as she worked. Lariah's hands moved faster, her fingers glowing with golden light as she activated the old system. The tower shook, and the floor split open, revealing a glowing shaft of energy beneath. "Now!" Evan shouted. She jumped into the shaft, the energy wrapping around her like threads of light. Her body rose slowly, floating in the golden beam. Symbols appeared on her skin, ancient and powerful. The air vibrated with pure force. The soldiers stopped, frozen in place by the pressure. Their armor cracked under the invisible weight of her power. The warship outside turned its weapons toward the tower, but before it could fire, a shockwave erupted from the beam. The soundless blast spread across the docks, across the sea, across the city. Windows shattered, buildings trembled, and every dragon in Orelise felt it, the heartbeat of the silent flame. Lariah floated in the center of it, glowing like a star. Her silence reached the minds of dragons everywhere, and they heard her thoughts as words of light. "We don't have to live in fear. We can change this world together." The warship's engines failed. The hunters fell to their knees. Even Lord Varoth, watching from his tower, staggered back as his power faltered. Evan watched from below, tears mixing with the smoke and rain. "Lariah!" She opened her eyes and looked down at him, her lips forming silent words. "Don't forget me." Then the light swallowed everything. When it faded, the tower was gone. The warship drifted, powerless, falling into the sea. The hunters vanished in the storm. And in the middle of the wreckage, Evan stood alone, the rain falling quietly around him. He looked up at the empty sky and whispered, "You're not gone. I know you're still here." Far above, hidden in the clouds, a faint golden light flickered once, like a heartbeat. The sea was calm again, but Orelise Prime was not the same. The warship that once ruled the skies now rested beneath the waves, its red glow gone forever. Smoke still rose from the docks, and the scent of ash filled the air. The city was silent, mourning, waiting, uncertain. Evan stood at the edge of the ruined harbor, staring at the horizon. The waves washed gently over the broken metal, whispering against his boots. For days, search teams had come and gone. They found no trace of Lariah. No body, no sign. Nothing but faint golden dust that shimmered like stars whenever the wind moved. People whispered about her, the silent flame, the deaf dragon lady who defied a clan. Some said she had died saving the city. Others said she had become part of the energy that powered Orelise itself. But Evan refused to believe she was gone. Every night he came back to this place. He'd sit near the remains of the old tower and wait, hoping to feel that familiar vibration, the pulse of her presence. But the nights passed quietly. Then, one evening, the air changed. The neon lights around the harbor flickered, and the wind carried a strange warmth. The metal beneath his hand began to hum, softly at first, then stronger. Evan's heart raced. He stood quickly, looking around. A golden shimmer appeared over the water. It rose slowly, forming a shape vague at first, then clear. A woman's silhouette, her hair like silver flame, her eyes glowing faintly gold. "Lariah," he whispered, his voice trembling. She stepped onto the dock, her feet barely touching the surface, her body surrounded by soft light. She looked real and unreal all at once. Part dragon, part spirit, part energy. But her eyes, they were the same. Gentle, strong, alive. Evan ran to her but stopped just a few feet away, afraid she might vanish if he came too close. "You're alive," she smiled, her lips curving softly. Her hands moved in the air, forming signs he hadn't seen in weeks. "Not alive as before. Different. I became part of the core. But I can still be here. For a while." He swallowed hard. "You saved everyone. The dragons stopped fighting. Veritha's gone. They're rebuilding the Peace Council. You did it." She looked at him quietly, her golden eyes glowing brighter. "We did it." Evan laughed softly, tears filling his eyes. "You always say that." Lariah tilted her head, watching him for a moment, then signed again. "I can't stay long. The core calls me back. But I wanted to see you one last time." Evan shook his head, stepping closer. "No, there has to be a way. You came back once. There must be a way to stay." She smiled sadly, her light flickering slightly. "If I stay, the core will fail. The peace we built will die. You have to keep it alive, Evan. Promise me." He clenched his fists, his voice breaking. "I don't want peace without you." Lariah reached out her hand. Her fingers brushed his cheek, warm, but weightless. He felt the vibration in her touch, the same silent rhythm she used to feel the world. Her eyes softened. "You already carry me. Every sound, every silence. You'll feel me there." Evan nodded slowly, tears falling freely now. "I'll make sure they never forget you." Her golden light brightened, spreading across the harbor, touching the ruins, the machines, the sea. Everywhere it touched, life returned. Plants sprouted, metal healed, water turned clear. The whole city seemed to breathe again. She looked at him one last time. "Goodbye, Evan." The wind blew gently, carrying her voice in the vibration of the air. Not sound, but feeling. Then she faded, her light breaking into 1,000 tiny sparks that rose into the night sky. Evan stood there long after she was gone. He placed his hand over his heart, feeling the faint vibration still pulsing within him. He whispered, "Goodbye, Lariah," the silent flame. Months later, Orelise Prime began to heal. Humans and dragons worked side by side to rebuild the city. The clans formed new councils. Old hatreds began to fade. And deep in the heart of the city, inside the rebuilt energy core, a faint golden glow pulsed steadily, like the heartbeat of a sleeping dragon. People sometimes said that when the night was quiet, they could feel a soft vibration in the air, like wings brushing against the wind. And those who knew her smiled because they understood. Lariah was still there, silent, watching, protecting the world she had died to save. And somewhere on the old harbor, Evan still visited every evening, sitting by the water, whispering words into the silence. "You're perfect," he'd say softly, smiling at the stars. He was the jerk, and far above, the stars seemed to shimmer a little brighter, just for him.